a dark and mysterious story where an ancient sorcerer uses a magical photograph and the power of souls to bring the dead back to life. But when a young woman goes to start her new life, she realizes that the horrors of the past are still haunting her. A sacred family, ancient traditions, and a cursed photograph, all these elements come together, leading to a terrifying fate. With each passing moment, the mystery deepens, and everyone is forced to confront a horrifying truth. The film begins by taking us back to 1832 with Dr. Joseph Gelge, a chemist, presenting a theory to the St. Petersburg Science Academy. He claims a unique silver lens can capture not only light, but also a person's soul. Although the Academy dismisses his idea, it proves true, leading to a dark ritual where souls of the dead are transferred into the living. Next, we meet Victor, a photographer, setting up to take a picture of his recently deceased wife with wooden eyes placed on her eyelids. Each time he tries to snap the photo, her head tilts, unsettling him. As he adjusts her again, he feels a presence behind him, though no one is there. Eventually, he captures the image. Meanwhile, Victor travels to a village where we discover that his wife passed away only a few hours earlier. Driven by a mysterious purpose, he intends to transfer his wife's soul into a young peasant girl by using her ring in the ritual. Victor arrives in the village to find the locals tense. Then, a man desperate to stop him confronts Victor, declaring he won't allow him to proceed. Victor, undeterred, shoots him, leaving the villagers horrified. With the crowd now in stunned silence, Victor places a ring on the young girl's finger, then seals her inside a coffin alongside his deceased wife. As he prepares to bury it, the coffin suddenly starts to shake violently, terrifying everyone. Moments later, a hand breaks through the lid, and Victor opens it. Afterward, Victor notices that days have passed without his wife returning to her old self. Adjusting to her new appearance is strange for him, yet he feels secure as long as the photographic film is hidden away. Confident they'll reunite soon, he hides the film in a secret place. Then, his wife stirs in her new body, but as Victor turns, he finds the bed empty. He looks up to see her standing behind him, lifting the cloth from her face. He is shocked by her expression, and his wife asks him in confusion what has happened to her. Victor reassures her that she's alive once more, but disturbed by her altered form, she demands to know what he's done. In the present day, we're introduced to a college student named Nastia, who is about to get married. She's with her boyfriend Ivan, and we learn from a conversation with her mother that Ivan works as a photographer. Afterward, Nastia and Ivan get married, and the next morning, Ivan mentions he needs to visit his sister Lisa. They drive to his family's home nestled deep in the forest. Upon arrival, Ivan introduces Nastia to his sister, Lisa, and her young niece and nephew. Lisa warmly welcomes Nastia, mentioning that photography runs in their family, and that their great-grandfather was the one who developed the G-type. At dinner, Lisa warmly welcomes Nastia to the family, mentioning that a tent is ready for a traditional wedding celebration in 2 days. Ivan, however, insists they'll leave the next day, surprising Lisa. She gives Nastia a ring that belonged to their grandmother, but Ivan, visibly upset, takes the ring, returns it to its box, and gives Lisa an angry look. Later, as Nastia is relaxing in the bath, she hears strange sounds, and suddenly the door swings open by itself. To her surprise, she glimpses herself walking by. Curious and unsettled, she steps outside to investigate, initially thinking it must be Lisa. She soon realizes she's seeing multiple versions of herself, all moving in mysterious, synchronized patterns. Suddenly, Lisa appears, and Nastia, still in shock, struggles to process what she just saw. Later that night, Nastia wakes up to find that Ivan isn't beside her. She wanders through the house, eventually overhearing Ivan and Lisa in a heated argument. Ivan seems inflexible about leaving, while Lisa insists on keeping Nastia there, prompting Ivan to threaten to go regardless. Nastia is drawn to a wall of old family photos when she hears an odd noise behind her. She discovers a ventilation system running throughout the house. Just then, Lisa appears and Nastia mentions hearing voices from the vent. Lisa brushes it off, saying it's probably just children playing. When Nastia asks about Ivan's whereabouts, Lisa says he went into town to meet some friends. Nastia tries to call him, but his phone is unreachable. Lisa shows Nastia family photos, explaining that her great-grandfather's clients believed these portraits could keep the spirits of the deceased close to loved ones. She then reveals a wedding dress that belonged to their grandmother, passed down through generations, and insists Nastia wear it for their ceremony the next day. While speaking, Lisa quietly removes Ivan's ring from Nastia's finger, replacing it with a family heirloom. Later, while Nastia is watching a video on her laptop, an unexpected noise draws her attention to the cupboard. Then, she discovers a hidden passage inside. She finds Lisa's son, who begs her to help his friend Tanya, saying she's stuck on the wall. Following him to the vent, Nastia reaches Tanya, whose leg is wedged between some pipes. She carefully frees her, but then her gaze shifts to a mysterious room nearby. Exploring further, Nastia notices various old objects scattered around. Among them, she finds a photograph of a bride that Victor had hidden earlier in the story. From the shadows outside, a face emerges, watching her. Disturbed, she tries to call Ivan again, but his phone remains unreachable. Later, as she's brushing her hair in front of the mirror, a chilling sight meets her eyes. She sees herself standing behind her, shocked. She stumbles backward, only to see yet another version of herself, causing her to collapse and faint from fear. When Nastia regains consciousness later that night, she heads back inside the house. There, she catches sight of a maid hurriedly descending the stairs with Victor following, demanding answers. Another man intercepts him, warning that she is incredibly dangerous. Victor disregards the warning, and the man escapes, overcome with terror. As Nastia approaches the mysterious room, the door abruptly slams shut, trapping her outside. Nastia wakes up in her bed and asks Lisa about Ivan's whereabouts, to which Lisa assures her he'll return that evening. Lisa then introduces her to a doctor named Agia, who examines Nastia and tells her everything is fine. Still unsettled, Nastia sends a voice message to Ivan, explaining the strange occurrences around her and stating that she plans to leave soon. As Nastia tries to escape, she overhears Agia warning Lisa that any mistake could bring disaster, especially due to Ivan. Nastia gets in her car, but notices Agia heading toward a second house with a lantern. Following her, Nastia finds Agia feeding a captive Ivan, revealing that the family locked him up after his argument with Lisa to prevent Nastia from leaving. Once Agia leaves, Nastia approaches Ivan, who, upon seeing her, urgently tells her to leave while she still can, warning her that she is coming. Suddenly, the lights go out, and Nastia begins to bleed from her nose. She hears noises behind her, and Ivan advises her to stop breathing and close her eyes. Before Nastia can fully grasp his instructions, a ghostly figure, a pale spirit in a black wedding dress, appears before her. Terrified, Nastia attempts to escape but stumbles into a pit. As she struggles to climb out, Lisa's father finds her and forcibly escorts her back to the house. Agia offers Nastia tea, and when she refuses, they force her to drink it, causing her to lose consciousness. In her dream, Nastia finds herself transported to an earlier time, witnessing Victor with his sick wife, whose eyes are blood red. She tells him she's dead, and suddenly her body begins to convulse. Moments later, she rises, locking her gaze onto Victor, and his eyes start bleeding as he falls lifeless to the floor. The bride then turns to Nastia, saying, "Let me take your body," and lunges at her. Just as the spirit attacks, Nastia jolts awake, finding herself on the day of the wedding. Everyone around her seems to be treating her kindly, and to her surprise, Ivan is there, reassuring her that everything will be okay. Overjoyed, she trusts him, but soon Lisa and Asia lead her away, saying they have something to show her. While dressing, Nastia notices an old family photograph of past matriarchs. On closer inspection, she realizes each face is identical. They are all the same woman. She tells Lisa and Asia that this woman matches the figure she saw in her visions, and they respond, revealing her as their mother. Just then, Nastia spots Tanya and instinctively follows her, attempting to escape. However, she's quickly restrained by members of the ritual as they drag her away. Ivan tries to intervene, but Asia blocks him. Nastia is then locked in a dark room where she encounters a horrifying sight. A skeletal figure animated by the spirit of the bride. Terrified, Nastia watches as the skeletal figure advances toward her. Just as it's about to reach her, Ivan bursts in, rescuing her and leading her out of the house. As Ivan drives Nastia away, he reveals that his family is cursed. The creature known as Mother killed his mother and left his father disabled when he tried to stop her. Now, she needs a new host, a family blood relative. Ivan explains that destroying the bride's photograph is the only way to end the curse. Nastia, to his surprise, says she knows where it is hidden. Suddenly, cult members crash into their car, capturing Nastia and leaving Ivan gravely injured, assumed dead. Meanwhile, Nastia is taken back to the manor, where they slip a red diamond ring onto her finger to initiate the transfer of the bride's soul. Sealed inside a coffin and buried, Nastia pleads for help, but her terror intensifies as she sees the bride's spirit advancing toward her within the coffin. Soon, the spirit merges with her. Outside, Agia and the cult members observe as the coffin shakes violently. Meanwhile, Ivan, miraculously surviving the crash, regains consciousness back at the manor. When the cult finally opens the coffin, Nastia, now possessed, rises and tells them that the body is ruined before collapsing back into the casket in convulsions. Panic spreads among the cultists, who escape in fear. Afterward, Agia confronts the bride, apologizing in desperation, but the bride only lets out a scream before killing her. Meanwhile, Lisa attempts to escape with her children, only to be confronted by the bride, now fully unleashed. Meanwhile, Ivan makes his way back to the manor and finds Nastia unconscious. Lisa, now desperate, begs the bride for mercy, pleading that her children are innocent. Hearing this, the bride vanishes momentarily but reappears, letting out a scream that causes Lisa to stumble backward and fall out of a window. The children, terrified, escape through a secret passage. Ivan and Nastia make it back into the house, where the injured Lisa pleads with them to save her children. Remembering the importance of the bride's photograph, Nastia heads toward the room containing it, crawling through the vent system. Meanwhile, the bride launches a fierce attack on Ivan, trying to prevent him from intervening. Nastia finally reaches the room and finds the children hiding there, only to see the bride's spirit closing in. In a self-sacrificial move, Lisa manages to pull the red diamond ring from Nastia's finger and urges her to escape with the children. Lisa then confronts the bride herself, putting on the ring and allowing herself to be possessed in Nastia's place. As Ivan breaks through a wall to reach them, Nastia guides the children toward him. However, in a tragic twist, Lisa, now fully controlled by the bride, snatches Tanya and pulls her away. Nastia retrieves the photograph and confronts the possessed Lisa. With a sinister laugh, Lisa starts to harm Tanya, but seeing the photograph in Nastia's hands momentarily distracts her, and she releases the child. Lisa warns Nastia not to destroy the image before lunging at her in a violent attack, causing Nastia to drop the picture, which slips out of her reach. Just as Lisa, under the bride's control, is about to kill Nastia, one of the children calls out, breaking through her possession. Regaining a moment of clarity, Lisa tearfully tells Nastia to look after her children. In a final act of sacrifice, Lisa smashes a lantern, setting the room ablaze, allowing Nastia, Ivan, and the children to escape. As they flee, Nastia glimpses Lisa consumed by the flames, her sacrifice bringing her life to a tragic end. The 4 survivors make it out of the house and leave, escaping the nightmare within. The movie ends with a year later, as a new family arrives at the abandoned manor with plans to renovate and make it their home. As they explore the rooms, they notice a hole in the wall. Peering through it, they catch a glimpse of a shadowy figure silently gliding past, hinting that the sinister presence within the house still lingers.